And of course, on Rocky Top, a bunch of great things happening between the basketball and the baseball team. Tony Vitello of Vols Baseball joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. Coach, what's happening?
Oh, not much. Just getting ready for a big week. We play ETSU tomorrow, and then we'll take a trip down to Houston this weekend. But thus far, it's been good to get most of our games in, and the guys have been playing well.
I appreciate you with the understatement of the century, Tony. I think that playing well right now, and listen, I understand that coaches, you guys have to keep expectations relative, but I had to double check the numbers on this morning when I saw that no team has come within 7 runs of you guys so far this year. I get it's early, but I mean, what can you say about the way your guys are playing?
Yeah, and to be fair, too, we were playing Tennessee Tech, and we were leading that game, but only by 1 run, and then rain for the first time since we put in our artificial surface cut us short. So that was disappointing. But the other games, our guys have just done a phenomenal job of really, kind of the Pete Rose approach, at least on the field, not the gambling part, not giving away any, not giving away any at-bats. And it can be difficult to do that in particular as you get late in the game and maybe – there's a big separation in score, and our guys have stayed locked in there. And then Coach Anderson's pitchers, regardless of what the score is, those guys have been our rock or our core since we've stepped foot in Knoxville, and they've done a great job too.
Well, you talk about not giving up at-bats. I mean, extra base hits in this particular series against the Iona Gales was such a staple of what you guys were doing. The offense has been electric so far. You've got guys like Trey Lipscomb hitting for the cycle on Friday. How much of an emphasis, I guess, was that in this particular series, or are you just applying fundamentals basically to when your guys get up to the plate?
I think it's a nice combination we have right now of a few guys that have been in the program since day one with us, that are really strong kids, but also have a bunch of at-bats or experience under their belt, complemented by guys who normally would have experience, but they've had to wait their time a little bit extra, at least for a year because of COVID circumstances. And now they're getting to, instead of cheer in the dugout for their guys, they're getting to be the main staples in the lineup, and they're taking advantage of it. And, I can only imagine how bottled up a guy like Trey Lipscomb or Jarrell Ortega has been because they came into our program to play, as do most kids. But that's really what they deserved earlier than they're getting. But nonetheless, here we are, and like I said, they're taking advantage of it.
Vols baseball coach Tony Vitello here with us on 104.5 The Zone, coming off a successful series against the Iona Gales, currently 7-0 with that midweek game, as he mentioned, tomorrow coming up against the ETSU Bucks. They've got the Shriners Hospitals for Children College Classic coming up this weekend. Texas, Baylor, and Oklahoma going to be a lot of fun in those games. I mean, ETSU is always solid, Tony. I know that's not an opponent that you can overlook with this series coming up this weekend. What stands out about that program?
Well, their pitchers haven't walked anybody as of late, and then Joe Panucci, their coach, fellow Italian, has just, since he's been there, he's kind of instilled the competitiveness there that is not only the old, you could argue it's an in-state rival or, we'll probably face a pitcher that grew up a Vols fan tomorrow night, but he's got them competing like that every game if you follow their schedule. So it's as well-rounded of an opponent as you're going to play outside of our conference. It'll be good for our guys. And a reporter kind of caught me off guard yesterday, said there's no love lost between the two of us, but I just think, there hasn't been anything crazy go on in our games other than they've been very competitive. And again, that's what we need going into SEC play in order to prepare our guys.
So speaking for the reporters as a media vulture myself, Tony, I mean, it's rare that we catch you guys off guard with those kind of questions, but I think as a coach and somebody who's obviously been in competitive athletics basically your entire life, like how do you kind of relay that between no love lost and just hugely competitive to people who haven't quite participated in events like these? Because I think sometimes when, at least when I talk to Mike Vrabel, there may be some disconnect between our media corps and the way that coaches perceive these things.
Sure. Well, when you're Mike Vrabel in particular, when he was wearing pads, he's not out there to make friends. And there may be some stuff that go on during the game But if you got him in street clothes, it probably would not even be a consideration or not a big deal to him or another competitor. But there's things that go on the field, and then when you're a media member or just a fan watching the game, you might blow out of proportion, an Auburn guy hitting a shot in our player's face and talking smack or emphasizing it or a fist pump or whatever. And, again, as an outsider looking in, those things go on, and I think – I don't want to speak for most athletes or coaches, but I'm just kind of generalizing. I think a lot of those things are just in the heat of the battle. I mean, I was given an umpire on a foul home run that Evan Russell hit against Tennessee Tech. I was saying all kinds of stupid stuff to him, but then 15 minutes later, we had to meet in the umpire's room because it was raining and figure out whether we were going to continue the game or not. So it's not quite the Clark Kent thing where you get into a phone booth and you're wearing a total different uniform and you're a total different person. But I do think there is a separation of business and personal. And, when we play whatever opponent it is on our schedule, it's business between the lines. And then I think on the personal side, you've got respect for any athlete or any coach that's putting in all the time that's required to be competitive these days, because collegiate athletics has become a very, very big deal in every sport.
See, you went with the Clark Kent comparison. Meanwhile, in my head, I'm thinking this sounds like schizophrenic behavior. Like I appreciate where that comes from.
Yeah, and by no means am I a version of Clark Kent, but I've kind of used that example. Guys like Ian Kinsler or Max Scherzer, like Max is the goofiest guy in America when he's not wearing that uniform, and yet a lot of fans just see him as Mad Max when he's on the mound.
Just out there stalking. It's crazy.
Yeah, and so you want to use an example, but it's not a schizophrenia thing or you got to be two different personalities as a kid. But I do think you got to kind of find your niche when you're a competitor. And then certainly off the field, all coaches want, respectful gentlemen or Boy Scouts or however you want to kind of phrase it,
Vol baseball coach Tony Vitello here with us on 104.5 The Zone. Tony, this seems like such a great time to be at the University of Tennessee. You've got the basketball team coming off a fantastic win. I know you were in attendance on Saturday when they took down Auburn. You've got the football program starting to iron things out under Josh Heupel with just an incredible ceiling. And the way that you guys are handling business, not to mention things like men's tennis and golf, with where athletics are, just how in sync is everybody right now in the athletic department at the University of Tennessee? Because it feels as good as any time in years past to be a Tennessee fan.
Yeah, swimming and diving has been insane. And then softball has probably been the biggest staple at Tennessee over the last decade plus. And it was a deal when we got the job. We really relied heavily on alums. And that 2005 group with J. Pierre and Sebia, Luke Hochaver, that group maybe has helped us as much as any. Chris Burke, too, being on ESPN helps. But they just talked about the glory days of all those teams. You didn't want to be outdone by the others. There was an internal competition, but there was also an internal sense of duty that, hey, this place is great in every sport, so we got to do our part. And then, of course, the stories, too, of just legends walking around campus where, guys who played in the big leagues were scared to death of Pat Summitt, even when she was just walking by him in the hallway.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we're in that similar type era, but I think, there were some cloudy days there for a while, and a lot of things, including on the financial end by Danny White's people, are just getting ironed out a little bit. And it's a great state. The campus is gorgeous. Knoxville is arguably one of the best. It's a city, but it plays like a college town. And I don't care who you are. You can't say it's not one of the best in the country. So why would it not be a great place for athletics? And you sprinkle in probably the craziest fan base in the country. I don't see why things at least shouldn't be good, and we're all working hard to try and make sure they're great.
Tony Vitello here with us. Yeah, the scene, the games for you guys always are a lot of fun at Lindsey Nelson, and certainly the scene at Thompson Bowling Arena on Saturday. You're rocking the Zakai Ziegler shirt. You give him a hug after the game. Did you hear his press conference afterwards?
No, but one of the reporters mentioned, and then our pitching coach, he's always pretty sarcastic. He gave me a lot of grief and said, "Hey, that guy don't even know who you are." And I I don't think he should know who I am. I mean, that's the guy everybody should know. Those are the guys that I looked up to when I was little. I knew every college basketball stat there was, and it was fun to get some feedback rocking that shirt because the fans there just love the passion he plays with.
Right.
And I think he's a guy that's been a key to bringing that team together when, speaking of cloudy days, I mean, I was going to those games, and I'm not a basketball coach, but it didn't look like it was going well, and it didn't look in sync like Coach Barnes' teams always are. And I think he's kind of been a conduit to that. So, yeah, when he ran down the court, our fans, they were held back from rushing the court, which is probably the best thing. So our players went to them instead, and it was cool to see that interaction. And I was lucky enough to have a seat where I was kind of right in the middle of that whole deal.
We've got the press conference audio, right? Lucas, you want to play that for Coach Vitello?
Yeah, after the game, I hugged him, and I did not know that was him. And then everybody was showing me, like, this is the baseball coach, right? This is the baseball coach. I was like, oh, man, I just gave him a hug. I didn't know who he was.
You should have said or got a message to him, Tony. Get your ass out to a baseball game. Come on, it's a lot of fun.
Exactly. Or you're not getting any NIL money from me if you don't know. But no, I think the best idea thrown out was we need to get him to throw a first pitch.
Yeah.
I'm not. I say this humbly, but throw a T-shirt of mine on his back, and maybe he can throw out a first pitch and make some comedy out of the whole deal. But bottom line is that guy is a lot of fun to watch play, as is the whole group at this point right now. They got it grooving.
You guys got some pretty cool gear. I don't think Sakai would be opposed. Tony Vitello there with us on 104.5 The Zone. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time. Continued success. Best of luck tomorrow and this weekend. We always enjoy catching up with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you. And next time the Preds play outside, we need to make sure the baseball team doesn't have a game. I want to make that thing.
Man, that was wild. We had incredible time. You need. I don't know if they're gonna do another stadium series here in Nashville, but yeah, you got to figure out the schedule there.
Amen to that. Yeah, I was going to pull a Step Brothers and say I want to interview you about that game, but I take your word for it. It was awesome. I made the one in Wrigley Field, the second one they did, and that was insane being at that place watching a hockey event. But it speaks to the Nashville fans how big of an event they made that. So jealous I wasn't there, but I appreciate you guys having me on.
Coach Tony Vitello there with us on 104.5 The Zone. Always enjoy catching up with Tony. They are he's being modest as coaches should be, and especially when you're so early in the season. But I get their schedule is not murderer's row just yet. It'll get highly competitive as we get into SEC play and things of that nature. But I mean, they are killing people right now.